The following video is brought to you by the guys at the Wrecking and Racing Podcast, a NASCAR podcast made by the fans for the fans. Check them out at www.wreckingandracing.com, facebook.com/wreckingandracing, and Twitter at Wrecking and Racing. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Saka here, and welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Racing 2003 season. We are here at Bristol Motor Speedway in the 2019 mod, and on the pole for 50 laps here at Bristol, Kevin Harvick. To our outside, and Brandon is outside row 2 in that wreckingandracing.com Toyota. Green flag is in the air, and we can see what we can do here on this long run. So fuel is not an issue. We can go about 60 or 70 laps on fuel, so no need to pit for fuel here. Just tires may be a thing if we get towards the middle of the race and the yellow flag were to wave. It might be worth it to come down and take tires. 2 tires, 4 tires, track position is key, and on this half-mile bull ring, we should be catching up to lap traffic fairly quickly. Looks like Aric Almirola is on the bottom, Brandon following him through. That will put Kevin Harvick back to 4th. Now, Harvick already has a win, as well as Almirola. Of course, myself and Brandon have the most wins this year, so the leaders are the winners so far, but as it is Bristol and anything can happen, we'll keep our eyes out for any possible surprise winners. But 16 seconds a lap, this race will fly by very quickly, and lap traffic is going to be really the Achilles heel of this race. Looks like Brandon is running that middle groove. We're going to try to stick to the yellow line as much as possible. Don't want to burn off the tires, so we'll roll in nice and easy just in case this is a completely green race. We want to have some tires throughout the event and not really push. Already a car, looks like they're coming to pit road. Perhaps that is Ross Chastain. It looked like in the 15 car. Indeed, the 15 is on pit road, so we will lap our first car right there. And to be honest, Ross hasn't had a good year whatsoever, so he wasn't a threat anyway. It wasn't a big surprise like, say, a Kyle Larson or a Kyle Busch. But both of those guys are winners and locked into the top 16. And only a few races to go after this, with Darlington and Indianapolis before the cutoff. So only 2 opportunities left after this race for a first-time winner. And already this year, we've had more different winners than the last couple years, but everyone else who has won a race has only won 1 race. So unlike previous years where drivers would win 2 or 3 races aside from myself and Brandon, looks like everyone is, on track to score 1. And speaking of scoring wins, Brandon is back to our back bumper. We'll give him the inside. If he wants to go, we'll let him. He'll complete that pass down into turn 1, and we'll follow him through. Aric Almirola still in 3rd, and it looks like Brad Keselowski is actually making his way up to 4th. Kevin Harvick drops back to 6th, and Ryan Blaney sits in 5th. And it looks like Brandon is indeed faster on this early run. I think we have more long-term speed, but Brandon is definitely quick on the short run. Let's see if we can see what he's doing differently. He's getting off the corner, especially turn 4, much greater. Looks like he's got sort of a wider entry and a wider exit, allowing him to carry that speed. We'll stick on the bottom just in case Aric Almirola decides to feel froggy. If we give him the bottom, Aric might look in. And lap traffic is now out of the windshield. Ryan Newman looks like he is shotgun on the field. And as long as they stay single file, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But if these lap cars start getting 2 and 3 wide, that's going to be bad mojo for us indeed, trying to navigate that lap traffic. But luckily we have a little bit of a gap, and I don't see anyone behind 6th. I believe that's Alex Bowman. So we've got some room to drop back if we need to, and already the lappers are side by side. That should bring them back to us very quickly. And laps are ticking away. Jeffrey Earnhardt on the outside of Ryan Newman. I believe Jeffrey may be the first car that we reach. He's got that high line. Aric Almirola now on our back bumper, a few car lengths back. And we don't want to give up that bottom because Aric will definitely go for it. So we'll stick on the yellow line as much as possible. Arc the corner just a little bit, but don't give up the lane. Yeah, this shallow entry is hurting our overall corner speed, but it's a good defense. Eric will have to go to the outside if he wants to get around us. So although we wash up the track just a little bit, he rolls out, and Brad Keselowski is there to pounce as well. It'll be interesting to see if Keselowski and Almirola will get battling side by side if Brad gets a big run. But the lap traffic has congealed together in one big blob right in front of us. That's not going to be conducive for good passing here. And I believe that was Martin Truex Jr. back there running towards the back there. Yes, we see him on the outside of Ryan Newman. So not a good day for Truex, who is not locked in to the championship 16. He's going to have to figure his life out in the last few races if he wants to compete for that championship, it seems. A few more runs like this, and he is definitely going to be on the outside looking in. Right there with Brandon, everyone is nose to tail, and looks like the 97 is now trailing the field there. Tanner Berryhill bringing up the rear. Little loose on corner entry right there. We had to pitch and catch just a little bit. Car is okay. It's not snappy loose or anything like that, but as these tires wear on, the car will get tighter, and that will rectify itself. Hopefully we aren't end up too tight by the end of the run. But let's see where Brandon goes here to get through lap traffic. The 97 and 33 side by side, not letting anybody go by. This is where it pays to be patient. We are way faster, but there's really nowhere to go. We have to make sure we get around these guys cleanly. Brandon puts the 97 to the outside. We'll follow him through and make good use of the holes he's making. Looks like Brandon was a little loose off of corner exit, and the 15 is back on the racetrack. It looks like he has actually a little bit of front end damage, and Ross getting into us just a little bit. We'll have to see what happened to Ross Chastain in those first couple laps to drop him back. One thing about it with Ross running up there, he may be choking up a line, so that will allow us to get a gap on those guys behind us so we can approach the front a lot more carefully than being hounded from the back. Let's get under the 13 of Ty Dillon here going into turn 3. And Martin Truex Jr., not having a good run tonight. It's so sad to see. Really, Martin is a threat to win each week, especially a few years ago when it seems like he had the dominant car in his championship season. So to see Martin Truex back here is kind of a head scratcher. Brandon to the inside. We'll see if we can fill that gap before Martin comes down, and indeed we can. We can't get off the corner as quickly. Martin will get that drive off, and we'll see if we can clear him and maybe slide job just a little bit, but staying on that yellow line, and we've got some breathing room to our back now. So it looks like the leaders were having difficulty navigating that lap traffic a lot more than myself and Brandon did. And as long as these guys stay single file out, I am not worried or concerned. But the race is definitely clicking off very quickly here. It won't be too awful long before we'll see the white flag at this rate. And as long as we are on Brandon's bumper, we've got a shot at it. Lap traffic is going to make it very difficult to pass, however, especially if Brandon is going around those lap cars. We don't want to put ourselves 3 wide. Barely clear Newman off the corner. He didn't give it to us, that is for sure. Trying to get around the 95 here. We should be able to complete that pass fairly easily off the corner. Indeed we can. And is that 3 wide in front of us, back to 2 wide. So it looks like Jimmy Johnson was making some moves, and luckily he is pretty clear of points. He was a few races ahead, so it almost looks like Jimmy is a mathematical lock no matter what kind of runs he has at Darlington and Indianapolis. I think at the end of this race, if you are more than 85 points clear, you are mathematically guaranteed a spot. And Brandon will force the issue on the 9. Chase doesn't give us a whole lot of room on that outside. Good drive down on the bottom, and now it's up to Jimmy Johnson. And Jimmy Johnson and Brandon have had some run-ins this year. If there was a rivalry on the track, it would definitely be between those two. Brandon and Jimmy have gotten into each other several times throughout the year. Road course, the All-Star race. Jimmy just sort of seems to make life difficult for that 27 car. We'll see if he yields this spot here. Looks like Brandon will get around him without much issue and set up for McDowell in the 34. And we can complete that pass as well. Possibly, maybe, perhaps we'll need to keep it on the bottom here. Brandon will gap us just a little bit while we struggle to get to the outside. That was beneficial for Jimmy Johnson to pass the 34 on the bottom. And just a few cars in front of us now, including Kyle Busch, uncharacteristically, but he does have that win from Watkins Glen, so he is locked into the Championship 16. Perhaps he's testing for his short track program when we get to Richmond, perhaps, or something. Who knows? All right, under the 43, nice and easy. Bubba will not concede that spot. He is right there on our corner. We'll get him on corner entry, but that will hurt our entry just a bit. We'll see if we can get around Larson as well. He is a winner from Michigan. Oh, and Brandon into Busch. Just a small tap, it seemed, and Busch whipped right around. The yellow flag will come out, so it's up to us on tire strategy. Fuel is not an issue, so I'm going to have a think here and see what we're going to do under this yellow. I'll be right back for the green. Coming back to the green here, as you can see, Brandon decided to pit. I opted to stay out. We'll see if this strategy works out. I don't think I would be able to get around Brandon on new tires if we were equal. So track position, I'm counting on to happen. Looks like Ryan Newman may help me out, hopefully. He got his lap, well, he's, first car one lap down, but he did not pit. So old tires scuffed up, having difficulty getting into the corner, but less than 10 to go. It was a single file restart, and Brandon is back there on two tires. Oh, a little loose and wiggle, and in the wall, Brandon goes. Wow, that was interesting indeed. I think Brandon would have got us for sure, if not that point, so we have to run hard here these last few laps. Don't overdrive it, and, hope for the best. Looks like there is going to be traffic in the way. There's Brandon looking, and that traffic going too wide with Brad Keselowski under Newman looks to help us out. Brandon's going to be making the most out of those tires for sure. We have to rely on this gap to help us. And Brad Keselowski is definitely closing up the gap. I believe all the lead lap cars pitted aside from us, so we are really at a disadvantage. We're going to have to block that bottom as much as we can. Brandon looking to the outside of Keselowski, now drops back in line. Oh, a little loose off the corner. We're going to lose a little bit of speed there. That will check up Brad, and Brandon will make the pass for second place right here on our back bumper. One lap to go. We're just going to have to drive conservative a bit. Brandon is right there. I don't think he'll get into us, but, a win is a win. We'll drive hard out of the corner. Brandon looks to the apron, and we take the checkered. Brandon tried to get everything he could out of it. The car slipped up just a little bit off the corner. He was putting it down. Good race for us indeed. That will put us one win closer to Brandon. Let's go ahead and take a look at our top 10. So we took the win. Brandon in second, Brad Keselowski third, Ryan Blaney fourth. Fifth place will be Paul Menard, interesting run for him. 6th place will be Joey Logano. 7th place, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 8th place, Chris Buescher. Look at him go. 9th place, Matt Tifft with a top 10 this year. And in 10th place was Eric Jones. So the first incident that did not bring out the yellow flag was Ross Chastain when he jacked up his front end and came to pit road. So it looked like it happened here on lap 4. So Truex is right there hounding the 15. Does Truex get into Chastain? Oh, turned him into the wall. He kept it going, and that brought Ross Chastain down to pit road. Next incident was the 18 and Brandon, which brought out the late yellow flag. Oof, that was a hard hit indeed, just from the look of it. So Brandon was looking to the inside of the 42 here. He gets that run off the corner, and going into turn 3 is when it happened. It kind of looked like Kyle came down. He hits that wall hard into Jimmy Johnson, and the 41 and the 9 get collected as well. Kyle not having a good day, but Kyle has a win. The 42 has a win, but Chase Elliott is struggling on the outside of the top 16 as well. It doesn't look like he got that much damage, but the 41 hit a ton, and he is also on the outside looking in. Let's take a look at the championship standings. That was my 8th win of the year. Brandon with 9, Almirola, Larson, Keselowski, the Bushes, Harvick, and Blaney with 1 win apiece. Jimmy Johnson is only 75 points clear, so he can fall out, but it would take 2 consecutive last place finishes, I believe. Austin Dillon is your cutoff driver. A race separates Joey Logano from the cutoff, so it looks like the big race is from 14th down to 20th. So Darlington may prove interesting for some of those guys, but that will do it for me. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week for Darlington and NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Take care.